Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. I'm a business relationship strategist. I am the founder and CEO of Powerful Women Rising. And my favorite thing in the whole world is the Powerful Women Rising community. This is the community that I run for female entrepreneurs online. We have members from all over the world, and it is an awesome mix of networking and mastermind calls and some business strategy and mindset all mixed in. And I just got off of one of our calls. And so I'm just like, every time I get off one of the calls, I'm like, God, why am I so lucky? Like, why is this my life? Because everyone in the community is just so awesome. And it's so fun to see them support each other and help each other and celebrate with each other. And it's just the greatest thing. So anyways, let's dive into today's episode. It is a really interesting topic. It's a huge topic, actually, that we barely scratched the surface of. But my guest, Leigh Ann Rodgers, and I are talking about mindset versus skill set, and which is more important in business, and how do you develop each of them? Like, where do you even start? And this is such an interesting topic because in my entrepreneurial journey, I started out doing a coaching certification, and you'll hear more about this in the episode, where everything was mindset. Everything was your thoughts. If you weren't getting the results you wanted, it was your thought. If you said you didn't know how to do something, that was a limiting belief, and you needed to tell yourself a different thought, and everything was thoughts. And over the course of my entrepreneurial journey, I realized that mindset is super important. And also, there are some skills that you need to have in order to run a business successfully. So if there are coaches or programs out there trying to convince you and sell you that all you need is mindset in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, that is a red flag. That's my PSA for the day. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is an interview with Leigh Ann Rodgers. She is driven by the mission to positively impact corporate culture and cultivate high-performing, happy teams. She's recognized by leaders around the world for her ability to get resistant teams to engage in transformational dialogue, collaborate on how to work better together, and increase satisfaction and retention. Throughout her career, she's worked alongside leaders of the most well-known Fortune 500 brands across the globe. Her flagship offerings include the Better Teams Model and Assessment, Team Consultant Academy, the Better Teams Community Forward, and the Leading Better Teams podcast. So she obviously knows a whole lot about mindset and skill set and what it takes to make them all work together, whether you are a solopreneur or someone with a team. So she's got a lot of great information to share, and I am really excited for you to hear this interview. Good morning, Leigh Ann. Welcome to the Powerful Women Rising podcast.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so excited to be talking to you today about a big topic, mindset and skill set, and how they work together and which is more important and how we build both of them up. But before we dive into that, tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So I have a company called Better Teams. So I work with leaders and teams to help them be more happy and high performing. I do a lot of executive coaching and 360 reviews with them to help people to create really robust development plans. And I also do a lot of work with teams, leaders of teams and teams to help them, get aligned, figure out what they need to do to work well together and meet their goals, but also enjoy the environment and be fulfilled by their work.
That's awesome and so important. I was just having this conversation the other day with a friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur, and she's gone through a couple different virtual assistants that haven't been a good fit. And the other day she's like, that's it. I'm bringing on a whole team. And so I know there's like different definitions of teams, right? Some companies have teams of thousands. Most entrepreneurs have smaller teams. But we always have this idea of like, I need to build a team. I need to bring people on. But we don't really know like what that means or how to be specific about what we need from them, how to like properly onboard them, how to handle situations that come up. We're just like, I need help. And then when they don't magically help us the exact way we intended for them to, we're like, this isn't working. So is that the kind of thing that you help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, once there is a team, there's a lot to do, right? Teams form and they storm, and it's challenging to get different people all on the same page working well together. So, figuring out, who's responsible for what, because there's often confusion around that, or, what are our goals? What are we working on? How are we going to meet? How are we going to connect? What do each of us want? And so, different styles and personalities can get into conflict too. So, it's unending amounts of challenges that teams can face. And yeah, I love to do that. I love to help leaders and teams get in there and figure out, what are we doing well? Like, what's working that we want to continue and celebrate? And then what are our opportunities to get better, to work more effectively together? Which, again, we want people to be happy so they're engaged and they stay. It's no fun to go through multiple assistants or multiple people, right? So we've got to figure out, how do we make this work ideally for all of us, and also ensure we're getting the work done and doing what we need to grow our businesses. So it's
Yeah.
a fun challenge. Just the people and the task, kind of balancing those two things out, is it's a fun challenge for me. I love working with people on that.
Yeah, I bet that's fascinating. A lot of different personalities and relationship dynamics,
Yeah.
communication
Needs
styles,
and
all the things.
expectations, yeah, of what they think the work's going to be. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
all pretty unique and different. And so put two of us together and we're going to have some conflict. Put three, four, five of us together. And if we don't work through those things, it can be, yeah, really detrimental to a business.
absolutely. So that's fascinating to think of in the context of what we're talking about today with skill set and mindset. Because when you are working with entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're solopreneurs. So the only mindset and skill set we have is whatever we have. And then you've got teams, or when you bring other people on who maybe have different or complementary mindset and skill set. So this is a great topic, I think, for you to be addressing. So before we dive in, this sounds like a very basic question, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page with what we're talking about. When we say, for the purposes of this conversation, mindset and skill set, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So I would say, in simple terms, mindset is really all about our beliefs. Our beliefs is simply, so our stories and our beliefs about ourselves, about what it means to be a business owner, about other people, about the industry right now and the economics of the world right now. All of those things we have stories about and beliefs about, and those beliefs can help us and kind of further us and move us along, or those beliefs can be our obstacles that get in our way and hold us back. So it's, to me, it's all about our beliefs and the stories that we have about ourselves and the world around us.
Hmm.
And then skill sets is, yeah, the tangible, hardcore skills that we need to run a business. Whatever it is our business is, we obviously need to have knowledge and skills around that particular. I do coaching. I need to have coaching skills, right? Someone who's running a floral business might need to have skills around how to, arrange flowers in a beautiful way. So we need those kind of skills. But then as a business owner, we also need to know, how do we manage our money, and how do we budget, and how do we market? I mean, there's endless skills there as well. So skill sets to me are more about the things that we know or are good at, and mindset is more about what we believe about ourselves, or it could be about those skills as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, the skill set thing is an interesting topic, especially for entrepreneurs, because so many of us go into our business because we want to do the thing that we are an expert at, right? Like
Yeah.
before I started in business relationship coaching, I was a dating coach for 6 years. And when I started doing dating and relationship coaching, it was just because that was what I wanted to do. And so I got my life coaching certification and I was like, here I am. I'm a coach who wants coaching. I didn't know anything about like building a sales page. What is a funnel? How do you keep track of your expenses? What expenses should you keep track of? How do you market yourself? How do you do a sales call? Like, we don't know any of that. We're just like, I just have this thing and I want to sell it. So, skill set is a very interesting topic when it comes to entrepreneurs, I think.
It is, yeah. And then our mindset about that, right? And so, yeah, if we believe I don't have this skill, that's a belief, and it may be true. Sometimes beliefs are founded in fact, and we can add the word "yet" behind it though, and change it to "I don't have that skill yet." And then our mindset is following into what I would call more of a growth, open-minded mindset of I don't have that yet, but I can either get that skill set, or like there's some things for me like bookkeeping. I don't have that skill set. I don't want that skill set, Melissa. I mean, it's nothing more unpleasant to me than doing numbers. So I hire someone to help me, right? And
Hmm.
so mindset absolutely can be attached to the skills as well. And if we have them or don't have them, or what we think about ourselves, like we may assume things that we can't do that we really could do. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Hmm. So when we're talking about entrepreneurship in particular, is one of those more important than the other? Does our mindset matter more than our skill set or vice versa?
Great question. And they're both really important. I believe mindset is more important because if you have the right mindset, you can build or figure out how to overcome any skill set deficit, right? If you have the right skill set, but you don't have the right mindset, you might be brilliant at it, but if you don't have the right mindset about it, if you don't have the right beliefs and you're thinking small, you're beating yourself down or you're limiting yourself, you won't be as successful. So I think mindset trumps skill set.
That totally makes sense. And why we hear, I mean, limiting beliefs is a very overused
Yeah.
phrase in the coaching world, but it's a huge part of mindset. Exactly the reason that you're saying, because when you're in that space of, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I will never be this, or I'll never be able to do this, that is very limiting in terms of skill set. Whereas vice versa, there's not necessarily skills that you don't have that are going to limit your mindset.
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
made sense.
Absolutely. And it's so important to just note we all have them. I have them, you have them. Every human on this earth has limiting beliefs and beliefs that hold us back. It doesn't make us bad or weak or anything. It's just human to have these. And so what we can do though is we can begin to become aware of them. And so we can manage them rather than letting them manage us. So it starts with, really being aware of them and then deciding, is this belief serving me? Is this helping me to be who I want to be as an entrepreneur or a mother or whatever it might be in our lives, right? Is this serving me, or is this belief getting in my way and holding me back in some way?
Yeah,
And so there's a lot of power in becoming aware of the belief and just saying, yeah, what's in it for me to learn, and how do I shift this belief should I choose to?
absolutely. And that's a great point too, that we all have them. Like you never get to a point where it is, okay, I've done all the work on my mindset. My mindset's good. Check. Now I can move on to skill set. Like I would love it if it worked that way, but it doesn't. We do get better at it. We get better at recognizing those limiting beliefs, recognizing the thoughts that aren't serving us or aren't helping us or making us feel bad that we can actually change. It happens faster, I think, but we never get to a point where it's like, okay, my mindset is perfect. Now I can go focus on other things.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
wonder if it would be helpful just to share with your listeners too, like they're two really common. The two mindsets that really get in our way and limit us are the victim mindset and then the critic judge mindset, right? And so the victim mindset is, oh, poor me, it's not fair. If only I didn't have to do this, if only this weren't a problem, if only people could see me for who I am. There's so many ways we can kind of fall into the victim trap sometimes and feel sorry for ourselves because of our circumstances, and that can just really limit our way of reacting to things. And then the other one that's really common that we all have is the critic and the judge. So whether we're criticizing and judging others or we're criticizing and judging ourselves, and I think as entrepreneurs and as humans and as women, I think we tend to be, and I know I can be, the worst critic of myself, the worst judge of my own behavior or what I've done or my work. And so when we get into critic judge mode, we have to be careful of that because that can also really impede our happiness and our success.
Yeah.
And
And I,
and yet, yeah, can I just add one more thing? At
yeah.
the same time, those the critic and the judge can there's some good from that too, right? Because it's maybe pushing us to be better or encouraging us to learn something new. So it's not that it's terrible to be a critic or a judge of ourselves. And yet, if we overplay that, we can end up just beating ourselves down or avoiding things because we're scared of making a mistake or not looking good or failing or losing money. And so we really need to be aware of those and check them from time to
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. That's what I was going to say is that I feel like the victim mindset and also the critical mindset can get into a place where it's very disempowering because you don't like the victim mindset is very helpless. Like there's nothing I can do about this. all these external circumstances are affecting me and there's nothing I can do. I'm just here helpless. But then
Mhm.
the critic mindset can also feel very disempowering. Like nothing I ever do is right, nothing I ever do is good enough. It doesn't matter how hard I work, it's never going to be enough. And that's also like that's not motivating. That doesn't make us want to be like, "Oh, let's keep going." It's like what's the point then? So, I think those are both very good points in terms of entrepreneurship is hard. And we all get to points where it's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know that I can keep doing this. This would be so much easier, although less pleasant, if I just had a 9 to 5 job. And so those are the kind of mindset ruts that we get in, I think, that keep us from moving past that space.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many, right? What's the one? I'm drawing a blank. Help me out here. When you see someone else do it, imposter
Mm,
syndrome, right? Who
hmm.
am I to do this? Who am I to be this business owner or hang up a shingle and say, I can do this? We might even doubt ourselves, especially at the beginning as entrepreneurs. And so there's so many that can get in our way. And when we have them, I think it's important and to say, okay, acknowledge it for what it is. Is there any truth in that at all? What can you learn from that? And then, yeah, how do we begin to like, what do I want to think or believe that's going to serve me and inspire me and give me hope and give me, yeah, that sense that I can do this. I can figure this out. Everything is figure outable. Have you heard of Marie Folio? She has got a great book called Everything is Figure Outable or just Figure Outable. It's such a great mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great book. So, before we move on to skill set, I want to ask you a couple more questions about mindset. So, if someone is listening to this and they are like, either they can identify, yeah, there's some struggles I have with mindset. I relate to some of these things these women are saying, and I've thought those things myself. What's the best place for them to start or kind of take their mindset work to the next level? Do you have some tips for that?
I do. I think it starts with the awareness, like we've been talking about. And being aware of what are the things that you believe are the challenges that you're facing or the barriers to your success might be a way if you're trying to figure out what are the things that because sometimes we aren't even aware, like we think it's fact versus it's a belief, right? So you might ask things like to yourself, like, finish this sentence. I can't, what can you not do? I'm not good at, and just finish the sentence and identify what those areas are. So I would start with that. And then think about like what is the story that I'm telling myself about who I am, what my business is, what my success is, who my clients are. What are the stories that I'm telling myself, and which ones are helpful to me and inspiring to me and get me energized, and which beliefs are and mindsets are pulling me back or holding me back or creating resistance in my life. So being aware, because we have strong ones and we have weak ones, and then you can think about what's the new story that I want to create? What's the new belief that I want to have? So if I'm direct and upfront with people and I speak my mind, they may not like me. They may think I'm aggressive, or they may think, negative things about me, and I might lose friendships or people might walk away. I might shift that thinking to, if I'm assertive and I'm compassionate while I'm being assertive, people will actually trust me and respect me because I'm speaking my truth in a way that's kind to them as well. So it's a way of kind of shifting our thinking, and it takes some practice. So I would recommend either writing, journaling, or ideally like finding someone who can coach you, whether you have a coach, or whether you find a friend that you just know is a really good listening partner with you, and talking that out loud. Sometimes it helps to have someone else help us see our beliefs because we're so like buried in them, we can't see them. So the idea of helping someone or talking out loud or writing about it can help us kind of begin to unpeel the layers and see what it really is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes things sound different when they come out of your mouth than when they're just in your brain. I feel like when I'm just
Yes.
thinking it, I'm like, yeah, that seems legit. That seems like a real story. Like that seems like a fact. And then sometimes I say it out loud and I'm like, oh, no, that, that didn't sound the way it sounded in my brain.
Yes. And if we go, well, is it possible? Is it possible that I'm wrong? Is it
Hmm.
possible that that isn't the case? Is even possible? It almost always will go yes, and then it can start to kind of help us break down and go, how could that be possible? And pull out of the emotions, because I think mindsets are so powerful because they have so much emotion tied into them, right? And when
Hmm.
we get real emotional in either way, because and we're inspired and we're feeling good and we have a belief about a situation and we're like, I can do this and I feel strong, or the other way around, we get really emotional. And we all know that when we get really emotional, our amygdala is firing off in our brain, and our prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking part of our brain, doesn't work as well. And so emotions can really impede our ability to be logical and thoughtful. So by writing or thinking it out or analyzing our beliefs, we're actually going into the thinking part of our brain. And then we can be a little more objective and make decisions that will serve us better.
That's really good. That's great advice. So, the coaching school that I got my certification from, and then several of the coaching programs and business programs that I was a part of after that, trying to build my business, were very mindset heavy. It was all, it's your thoughts. If you're feeling this way, it's because of your thoughts. If you're taking these actions, it's because of your thoughts. If you're getting these results, it's because of your thoughts. Like everything is mindset. And there's been a process for me of realizing that not everything is mindset. I joke sometimes because coaches love to ask the question, if you did know the answer, what would it be? And sometimes when it comes to business things, especially if you've never had a business before, that question is not helpful because I actually don't know how to market my business. I don't actually know how to do a sales call. And yes, there's a
Yeah.
lot of different answers, there's a lot of different ways. And so part of it in most areas of entrepreneurship is like, let me just try what I think is going to work and see if it works. But there's also times that it's like bookkeeping, for example. Like we don't want to go down the rabbit hole of like, if I did know how to do bookkeeping, how would I do it? Or like,
Yeah.
let's work on your mindset around bookkeeping, Leigh Ann. Like, how about no? Like, how about we just go hire somebody to do our bookkeeping? So I definitely think there's a balance between like not always being focused on the mindset, but also bringing some of that skill set in. Can you talk a little bit about that and like, how do we know when the skill set is important and when it is a mindset issue?
That's a really good question. So if we think about mindset as our beliefs and skill sets, so things that we're capable of doing, let's just in really simple terms, yeah, there are a lot of skills that we need to be successful. And if we lean into the growth mindset, which is based off Carol Dweck's work, book is called Mindset, if anyone out there hasn't heard of that before. Growth mindset is all about how can I learn? And so in any situation, it's okay, it wasn't a failure if it didn't work. It's what can I learn from that? Or if it didn't go like you hoped it would, it's what can I learn? So it really falls into turning every situation into a learning moment so that it's all okay. I mean, we're just learning, we're human beings fumbling through this life and we get better. And so we can take that learning mindset too and figure out what are the skills that I really need in my business to be successful. And I would say, like, think about all the things we've talked about, from everything from marketing and sales side to actually being able to have the skills to do whatever your business is. I mean, there are going to be hard skills related to your type of business, and figuring out what those are. And then for me, it's figuring out what are the skills. Well, what are the skills that I either have and I don't have? What are the skills that I don't have, but I'm interested in that and that would be fun and I'd like to spend the energy and time to do it. And then what are those skills that I just have no interest in or they would be so painful for me, or it's just easier or faster to hire someone to do it, right? And so there's a
Mhm.
lot of ways to kind of think about that, but I think we've got to figure out, what's needed. Think about wherever your business is right now and where you'd like it to be, even just in a year from now or 2 years from now. So kind of shorter term, and then think, what skill set do you not have right now that would get you there? And I'm going to take a guess here, Melissa, that a lot of people listening to this, if they already have the skill in their business area and that's why they chose that, I'm going to guess just from so many business owners that I know and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and coaches, it's often around, I don't know how to market myself. I don't know how to sell myself. I don't know how to do my pricing. It's all those kind of like true, like, growth business things. And so then you have to decide, do you want to become really knowledgeable about those areas, which could be a huge endeavor in its own, or do you want to be knowledgeable enough and then hire people? And then some people may say, well, I don't have the money to hire somebody. So there's a lot of, and then that would going to come back into a belief about that, right? I don't have enough money, or it's too risky to invest the money, which comes back into a mindset. So it all all circles around, like they're so connected in so many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, then we get into money mindset, and that's a whole other
Yeah.
90
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying, oh, just say you have the money, it's your mindset, go spend it. Because I've seen people go out with a lot of, I'm going to make this work and spend a lot of money really fast and
Hmm.
not spend it well. And it was detrimental to them. Like they had to go back to a job because they spent, $20,000 in the first 3 months pushing things out and hiring people to help them with no stream of income coming in. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. These are just all things that I think we have to weigh out and balance. But as we think, well, what's the barrier? If the first barrier is I don't know how to market myself, and then the second barrier is I don't feel like I can afford someone to help me market, then we have to get into, is that a mindset? Is that fact or is that mindset? And then how do we get creative in there to find a balance so that we can, choose something that really works for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like in the beginning of my business was a lot more um, done with you services. There were a lot more like, take the course, teach me how to do it myself. This is taking way more time than I want it to, but now I know how to do it because I don't have thousands of dollars to pay somebody else to do it. And then at some
Yeah.
point, you get to a point where it's like, okay, yes, I know how to do this, but I don't really want to. And I do have the money to pay someone else to do it. So it changes too, right? I think mindset and
It
skill set
does.
both change. And some of the struggles that you have or the deficiencies that you have in certain skills at one point in your business may not be an issue later in your business, but there's always new things to learn and there's always new mindset issues. I think that we have a tendency to believe like, when I'm making six figures or when I'm making seven figures or when I'm making enough to like, outsource this, and this thing, then my mindset issues will go away. And then it won't matter that I have skill set
Yes.
deficiencies because I'll just pay somebody else to do the things. But you and I both know at every stage, there are new challenges.
Yes. Yes. And we have new mindset shifts to overcome. And we also have new skill sets we have to build, right? If you're
Yeah.
starting off and you're a solopreneur, you have a certain level of skill sets to build. If you grow and all of a sudden now you have a company and you have 3 or 4 employees, now you have new skill sets to grow. You not just have to do your thing, you have to get a team working together. You have to figure out, how do you hire people? You have to figure out, how do you coach people that aren't performing well? How do you get a team working well together? Those are all new skill sets too. So if we're in this space of wanting to grow and evolve, and I think people in the entrepreneurial space usually are, they like the challenge. Yeah, growing in skill sets never stop. There's always more to learn. And our mindsets are something that we never master. We can get better at it. And yet we're humans. So we're always having to practice and be aware of our limiting beliefs or our mindsets around things. Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
so then if we can stop and maybe like take the pressure, because I know I'm one of those, like when I get here, it'll be so easy. I can do that myself, right? And it never is. So I'm really leaning into embracing the whole thing of this is a journey and enjoying the present moment. And not when I get to here, it's going to get better. Because when you get to there, one thing might be better, but then there will be new challenges. So if we can be more in the present and like, the good and the bad of where we're at, um, and find the joy, like find the parts that are fun in the moments for us. That maybe it's exciting for us to solve a challenge or figure out how to get a new client. Or maybe, by the way, with it, when it comes to money, maybe we look at our options and we go, okay, maybe I get a mastermind group together and we all just come together and share ideas with each other. Or maybe we swap services. I find someone who's really good at marketing and I'm really good at this, and we swap services. And there's lots of ways we can get really creative when we start thinking about what our options are, which to me is that growth mindset of what have I not tried yet? What else is out there? What have I not figured out yet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get to that point that it's like, I've tried everything, nothing worked.
Yeah, yeah,
And whenever my clients get to that point, I'm like, have you really though? Have you really? It's funny listening to you talk. I'm just thinking about my journey over the time of building my first coaching business in those 6 years. And for the first half of it, I was not making any money. And I remember when I shifted things and I started making money consistently, and people were hiring me and people were joining my group. And I I used to hear people say like, oh, maybe you have a fear of success. And I was like, that's so dumb. Like, who would be afraid of success? That's all any of us want. But once people started like paying me and I was actually making money, all of a sudden I was like, shit, like this was actually easier when I wasn't making money. And it was just like, oh, here's a new thing. Who wants it? Nobody? Okay, next. Like, I got very
Yeah,
comfortable in that space. And then when it was actually working and I was getting clients, that's a whole other level of like, wait a second, now I have to figure out what to do with this money. Where does this money go? Do I reinvest this money? And now I have this pressure of like, these people have given me this money for this result. And how do I make sure they're getting the result? And it's like, there's always more.
always, always. And so, yeah, so always opportunity to learn, right? About ourselves, about our businesses, about how we can grow. Absolutely, always inevitable. Like it's so funny. Like it doesn't matter if you have no money or you have a lot of money, you have challenges. There's different challenges. And there's challenges, right? And you can see someone who's like really struggling and just finds the joy in what they do. And often they are the ones who do well. And you can find people who are super successful in a business, but they're miserable because yeah, they have so many burdens on them. So a lot of that to me is joy and mindset, looking at people. There was a really good show one time. It was the Hidden Boss, Hidden Boss. Have you seen that? It may be an
Oh,
old show where
yes.
the CEO of the
Undercover
company
boss.
would undercover boss.
Hmm.
Yes. And the one that I remember was, I think it was a Popeyes chain, but it was some food chain. And there was a man and his job was, he was the custodian at this fast food restaurant. And his job was to, he saw it every day. He would go out and he would start in the parking lot and he would scrub that parking lot, pick up all the trash, make sure everything was cleaned up. And he did it with like joy and he would sing and he would welcome people. And he felt like, my job here is to make sure people pull into this restaurant, they have the most amazing experience and it's clean and it's fresh for them. And here's somebody you might think, what a horrible job. I would never want that job. But his mindset was, I have a very important purpose here, and I'm creating joy and a sense of calm for people as they pull in. And so it's just a great example of it. Really doesn't matter our circumstance, whatever it is, we have a choice to decide, how do we want to view this? What do we want to believe about this? How do we turn this into, an opportunity and a gift? And that's to me like the essence of what about mindset really is.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that example.
Oh, I love that. It's just I've seen, go back and watch it. It's probably on YouTube as an old rerun. Yeah. And I have to remember this too. I'm saying this to you and I'm like, I don't always have the best mindset. I have moments where I become the victim or I become the judge or the critic to others or to myself. I have moments where I need to like course correct. We all do. We're human. Like that's humanness, right? So we're not, aspiring to always be inspired. I mean, it's though when we find ourselves in a slump or down or in a critical place, we think, how can I be, what am I doing? It's creating that awareness. Again, it always goes back to awareness and then making a choice about what's the belief that I want to have and or what's the skill that I want to build or get or compensate for in some way. I'm either going to build this skill in my business or I'm going to figure out how do I compensate that I don't have this skill by hiring somebody or learning about it or figuring out a creative way around it. And that's the fun and the challenge and the joy and the pain all at once of being an entrepreneur, I think.
Ain't that the truth? Absolutely. So this has been so good. I have like 1,000 more questions for you, but I'm going to leave it at that. Maybe we'll have you come back. We'll do a part two. If anybody wants to connect with you, if they want to learn more about you and about what you do and how you can help teams and individuals and leaders, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can always connect to me on LinkedIn, or go to my website. It's better-teams.com. You can find me there as well and read about what I do and connect with me there.
Awesome. I will put the link for your website and your LinkedIn in the show notes so everyone can connect with you. And thank you so much for this conversation, Leigh Ann. It was amazing.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a good way to start the week because it puts me in the mind of being aware of my own mindsets. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
I was just thinking that. I was like, this is a good reminder for me. I should probably listen to this episode over and over.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Powerful Women Rising podcast. If you love this podcast, you can support me and the podcast by subscribing, following, joining me on Instagram, sharing this episode or another episode with somebody that you know would love it, and most of all, by leaving us a review. You can leave a review on Apple or on YouTube, and by doing so, you help those platforms know this is a great podcast and you should show it to more people. So I would love it if you would take a couple minutes and support us in that way, and I look forward to chatting with you again next week.